Hello BookTube, happy Mother's Day to those of you who are mothers watching today. It's a bit of a gloomy day outside today, so unfortunately the lighting's going to be a little bit crazy. I haven't been on in about 2 weeks, so I thought I'd better do a video and catch up. I've been kind of busy, just, I don't know, doing other things. I have been reading. I'm actually getting a little bit more and more into reading as the quarantine goes on. I think we're almost to day 50. But I've been doing some cleaning. You might notice a little bit of change in some of the stacks back there behind me. I've redone some bookshelves, pulled some things that I plan on selling when that opportunity comes along. I've been MacGyvering my way through some yard work and equipment that I haven't used before, and I even had to set up an umbrella on our deck table, and the little centerpiece had cracked a long time ago, and I basically MacGyvered my way into creating a little holder for it, cutting out a plastic ring and tape, and it looks quite good. If I can, I'll put an insert in it. Yeah, just finding new skills, or having to find new skills, changing blades on edgers, and I don't know, all sorts of weird things that I never thought I'd end up doing, but yeah, we'll see how that all works out. But what else can I do? Gotta keep busy. I was also feeling a little bit under the weather for a period of time too. I had kind of sore throat, one of those that just didn't want to go away. Just not super painful, but just an annoyance like in my throat for about a week, and then that developed into like 3 days of a low-grade fever that was interrupting my sleep and making me feel a little bit miserable. Not much to complain about, but enough that I was concerned about. So went to a doctor, and she put me on a Z-Pak for just precaution, just in case it was strep throat or something. We didn't think it was, COVID-19 or anything like that. But that Z-Pak seemed to clear everything up. So I'm feeling much better now, much more energetic, and obviously doing more things around the house. But yeah, I was still a little unmotivated to kind of get on here and film a video. So I feel a little rusty. I don't know why. 2 weeks goes by and you're like, okay, I don't know what to do anymore. But let's jump in here. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the books that I finished reading and what I'm currently reading. One of those that I finished is a book I picked up not too long ago, but much behind probably the rest of the BookTube community, because it came out about 4 years ago in 2016. This is Margaret the First by Daniel Dutton, a thin little novel about Margaret Cavendish, a rather unique woman from the 17th century. Well ahead of her time, she wrote feminist prose and plays and even utopian science fiction. She was nicknamed Mad Madge because of her kind of crazy behavior, going to the theater in a topless gown. She has a very contrasting personalities, this sort of almost shy, quiet person at times, preferring her own company or just that of her husband, William Cavendish, to parties and things like that. She seemed to kind of shun that kind of society, and then yet she has this other side of her where she's going to theater topless, and then wanting to speak before the Royal Society of England. She was actually one of the first women ever invited to do so, and the last for like some 200 years following her. Very unique vision, very much ahead of her time, and very intriguing individual. She was a member of the Queen's cabinet, like an attendant, and she was kind of caught up in the whole English Civil War, having to flee with her husband to France before being repatriated back to England and trying to find her way back into that society, but yet then also shunning the society and preferring her writing. But the writing within this is very beautiful, very, very beautiful prose, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's quite a thin little novel, and I just absolutely flew through it, so I was really glad I finally got around to reading it. The other book I finished is one by Donna Leon. This is Acqua Alta. This is the 5th book in the Commissario Guido Brunetti mystery series. I wasn't able to get a hold of book 1 in the series, but for some reason this cover just really intrigued me. The whole idea of a mystery set in Venice pulled me right in. I visited Venice with my father when I was in 5th grade. Still have memories of the time I was there, and it was all kind of brought back with this particular book. And the author does a very good job of making you feel like you're not missing anything by jumping in anywhere within this series, which is a sign of a really good author, that you don't have to have read the previous ones to be able to pick up one and kind of just carry on. There are 2 characters within here that feature heavily within the story. There is an art historian and also her lover, who's a reigning kind of operatic diva, who apparently appeared in, I believe, the 1st book in the series. So there is a relationship between them and our Commissioner Brunetti, and it is kind of briefly mentioned, so it kind of catches you up to speed on how he knows these people. But the art historian ends up being brutally attacked in her partner's apartment. Luckily, her partner was there. She didn't hear the attack as it first happened, but stumbles upon it in the act and is able to chase the two men away. But they've already like brutally, broken her jaw and given her all sorts of really serious injuries. And Brunetti goes to visit the woman in the hospital and reconnects with the two and kind of finds out some things about a possible art theft or forgery thing going on. And then when it's known that there's this connection to this diva, his boss kind of puts him on the case, and he finds himself kind of getting pulled into this whole weird mystery. Then there's a murder that takes place, and that murder is connected to the art historian. She believes he might have had some kind of connection to some art fraud going on, and suddenly you're sucked into this mystery series. I really like the character of Brunetti. He's a family man. He's got a son and a daughter. There's this one scene in there with his daughter where she accidentally drops a rather heavy table on her toe, and when her father comes home, she's just pleading with him to do something to relieve the throbbing pain in her toenail because of the blood kind of pulsing behind that, from that impact of the table. And again, it just brought me back memories of my father because I did something along similar, but not with my toe. I had crushed this particular fingernail in a safe at work when I used to work at B. Dalton, and when I got home, it was just the worst pain. Every pulse of your heart you feel in that injury, and the blood just trapped below that nail, and you knew the only way to relieve it is to relieve the pressure. And thank God my father was a carpenter, so he'd been through enough, traumatic nail injuries from hammers and stuff. They knew exactly what to do, and that's exactly what Brunetti ends up doing for his daughter, is heating up a paperclip over a fire and burning a little hole through the top of the nail, and poof. And it just, oh my God, it was like flashback. It was kind of, I don't know, touching for me, having just lost my father, but it was just a kind of another memory. And I also remember when we were in Venice, seeing these boards kind of stacked up in St. Mark's Square, wondering what they were. And my father explained to me that those are the boards they use to set up as sort of like a raised platform for people to walk across when you have the rising waters, or Acqua Alta as it's referred to, during the winter, when the Venice and the whole city kind of floods. And if you ever want to see what that looks like, check it out on video. On YouTube, you'll see videos of the water up to pretty much the mid-thigh of some of the tourists and the Venetians trying to walk through the city streets. It's quite crazy. But it was a really good, intriguing mystery. Something different for me other than the general cozy mysteries I read. It was nice to have something with an actual professional detective, a little more gritty feel to it. And I love the way the author makes Venice feel like a character within the book. Very rich detail. It gave the perfect atmosphere for it. So I really, really enjoyed this. The only other thing I've ever read by this author were her essays, My Venice and Other Essays, which I read just near the end, I think it was, of 2019, or was it the beginning of this year? I don't know, fairly recently though, but I really enjoyed her writing enough that I wanted to pick up the series. I was glad I finally got around to one, and I'm looking forward to kind of maybe backtracking and starting over from the beginning and reading more of them as soon as I get my hands on some more. So I highly recommend her. I'm still kind of in the middle of reading The Way We Live Now. This is the one I'm listening to on audiobook. I haven't been listening to my audio very much because I was doing that before all this happened, when I was driving back and forth to work or when I was out walking. And then when I kind of was feeling ill for a while there, I wasn't out walking very much. So I'm just starting to pick it up again now. Not today because it's gloomy out there, but so I haven't really made a whole lot of progress in it. I'm feeling a little bit, to tell you the truth, a little bit bored with it, probably because I've created too much distance between times when I'm kind of getting back into the story, that I'm getting a little bit, I don't know, a little bit lost in it, I suppose. But I'm still going to continue with it and finish it off. I haven't picked up Ducks Newburyport in quite some time, so probably should get back to my 20 pages a day and kind of get back into it and get back into reading of that a little bit. But I have gotten kind of into mysteries. Since I did the Donna Leon one, I felt like reading some more mysteries. I do have another book that I wanted to finish. It was one of the ones that I borrowed from work. And it's the second book in the Scott Shop Mystery Series. I previously read A Wee Murder in My Shop by Fran Stewart, and now I'm reading A Wee Dose of Death Scott Shop mystery series. It's a shop owned by Peggy, and she sells basically authentic Scottish wares that she has picked up on her travels from Scotland. One of the things she picked up on her last visit, which we found out in this book, was a tartan shawl, and kind of attached to it is a Scottish ghost, which she's now brought back to the States with her. It seems to somehow be connected to the shawl. It was belonged to his late wife, and it had just been carrying on, I guess, through the family through centuries until it ended up in this shop, which is a very strange shop that she found when she was in Scotland, because when she tried to go back to the place after buying it, the shop was no longer there. So that was a little mysterious. But anyway, they're pretty good mysteries. They're pretty enjoyable. She has a friend named Caroline who owns a local eatery restaurant, and there ends up being a man who's murdered. It was her former professor. He seemed to be working on some sort of covert paper of some sort, or some sort of covert research from his students. They say he's always rather secretive about stuff, but I just kind of read the back. I hadn't read it when I picked up the series because I first started reading this one. I didn't want to spoil myself until just a second ago when I read it, and we find out that apparently something happens to her friend, Caroline. So that's going to pull her kind of more into this mystery, but I'm really enjoying it. It's just kind of lighthearted in terms of the reactions or the situations that come up with the ghost. He's way out of his time, so he's always questioning, what does this mean, what does that mean, and at the worst time she'll be in public and he's asking a question and she might answer it and people are like, who are you talking to, kind of thing, which you can't just come out, oh, the ghost over here, So some of those situations are rather entertaining, but the mysteries was pretty good in the first one, so I'm just looking forward to kind of knocking this one out. I'm like halfway through there. I don't know if there's more in this series or not, but these are the only two that were available at the time at work, so if I like it more I might continue, but I'm enjoying them so far. And then the other one I'm reading is on my ebook, so I don't have a physical copy, and this is Lonely Graves by Britta Bolt. This is the first in a trilogy, Peter Posthumous trilogy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the first name right. These are a lot of Dutch names, which I found a bit confusing for myself to kind of follow along with the story. The book itself has like a dramatis personae in the beginning of the book, which I saw when I first encountered it in the ebook, but as the ebook I can't keep flipping back to that first page, so that makes it a little harder to keep up with the characters within this, but I'm getting into the storyline. It features our main character, Peter Posthumous, who works for a department of basically lonely funerals. They deal with the corpses of people that have been unclaimed by family or friends. The city pays for the funerals, and it's sort of his job to kind of visit the home of these people, collect perhaps any financial means that they can use to help pay for the funeral, and then any kind of personal effects that they can maybe use to make it a little bit more a human kind of feel to the funeral, a little less impersonal, I suppose, in case any mourners might happen to show up. But he gets very caught up in it, much more than his co-workers, and he delves a bit more into the people. One case he found like poems written by the deceased, and was able to bring something into of that into the service and stuff. So you have him kind of researching into these deaths, almost on a slightly detective-y level, that is going to get him into a bit of trouble, I guess, as the story progresses. There's also a secondary plot line that I'm following, sort of a terrorist plot line that people are watching, and there's going to be a connection between someone he's looking into, a death, a sudden death, a drowning, supposedly, or accidental drowning, and a connection to this terrorist activity that's going on. But I'm really enjoying it so far. Like I said, my main problem is just kind of keeping track of the place names and people names that I'm finding a little bit difficult in my lack of knowledge of the Dutch or these Arabic names and things like that. So, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Like I said, it's the first in the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing the other two. But I'm only about maybe 40% through it, so definitely check it out, though. It's really good. It's written by Britta Bolt, which is actually the pen name of Rodney Bolt, who's South African author and a German lawyer by the name of Britta Bowler, who happens to be our very own Britta on the second shelf on BookTube. So if you haven't seen her channel, definitely check her out. Really enjoy her channel. And I'm really enjoying her book so far. So I hope you guys enjoy this kind of catch up on where I'm at so far. I hope you guys are all doing well and reading something interesting. Let me know down below what you've been up to during this crazy quarantine period. And I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.